Well, yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about intelligence interpretation, whether it's artificial or not. Is debatable in a way. It's sort of so I want to really just go back to some basic principles of, we acquire our data, but I'm quite interested in it's what type of data is it, and what quality has it got? Is it any good? I've got lots of data, some of it's better than others, shall we say. And then for processing, sort of not all processing systems seem to be the same. Do we go for a standardization? Do we really want that? I'm not sure. Does one size fit all? And how well is it processed? Are all those parameters used or not used? Do we know as users using that stuff? And then sort of ground truth. Are we doing any ground truth? I'm going to come across that a bit. So we have different types of interpretation that we do as the end user sort of interpreter. We can go from basic interpretation, which we just do from the waterfall. We do it on the ship as it goes whizzing past. And maybe that's enough, and we don't need to do any more than that. And then sort of we've got the basic interpretation, which is look at the point of things, just say, hey, that doesn't matter. We've got expert interpretation, using a nice expert, paying lots of money, no chance, but it's slow. I think we do need that expert. Then we get onto the artificial intelligence. Can we get computers to do the answers for us? Can we publish that? Or actually, we get the computer to do that, and then we get an expert to judge how good that was, and sort of and maybe that he or she will then edit and alter those results. And then possibly we start doing sort of ensemble interpretation. We do lots of different types of AI and sort of create an average. And then sort of an average plus expert. So there's all kinds of different ways of doing interpretation and getting to your final answer. I'm just going to give a very quick thing. This was a survey that we did, sort of, and we wanted to know how much of trawling was going on in it. Obviously, couldn't see the trawl marks really in the bathymetry, but in the backscatter they appear perfectly in these thin lines. So you go, oh right, okay, that's fine. Sort of that's just basic mapping. And we're all used to now getting our nice mosaics of backscatter and going, oh right, okay, let's have a go at using artificial intelligence. Can we do object-based image analysis of it and putting that together? So sort of putting that together using sort of some object-based image analysis we've developed within some of these packages of ArcMap and QGIS. We can now do object-based analysis in both of those, and we can produce a cluster map, a map that says all this blue area is approximately the same stuff, all that green area is approximately the same stuff. Well, what is it? We don't know unless we have ground truth. So sort of we can start to do this sort of thing, but we need to start looking at that. And then we're going to start to say, well, how reliable is this? How, can we rely on this artificial intelligence to give us something or other? So sort of exactly, I covered something actually this morning about the shallow water surveys that they did. And I'm wondering whether there's something there that we can start to look at. These were effectively 6 different multi-beam systems that would run over the same area in the port of Portsmouth, in the UK, a couple of years ago now. And they all produced a bathymetry map, and they all produced a backscatter map. Now, how they produced their bathymetry map, and how they produced their backscatter map, I have no idea. I was the end user. I was just given these as mosaics. And I was going, well, I have no idea which system they were. 6 different industry-leading manufacturers, and they produced these. And so, okay, they all show approximately the same thing. This one shows rather a lot of artifact of from the backscatter processing or from the acquisition system, but that's what they produced. The 6th one, question mark, didn't get it from them at all in backscatter, probably didn't produce in backscatter. This is in the days when backscatter wasn't necessarily considered to be part of the output that would necessarily be created. So I'm just sort of going, hey, so we ran object-based image analysis on the first 3 of these. And I just ran them literally, and I will say quite honestly, hand on heart, that effectively I had no idea what I was expecting. And I just ran the system, effectively put in the bathymetry, put in the backscatter, asked to give me 10 classes, and I told it that I wanted a size of polygons, coloured areas that sort of weren't going to be too small. I don't want it to be completely peppered. I wanted it to be sort of semi generalised. And I put that together and said, right, okay, I'm going to give it backscatter, and from the bathymetry, I'm going to get slope and roughness. Now, because slope and roughness are quite often related, I put a weighting of 2 on the backscatter and put that together and ran it. And I got that on, that's on the first data set I ran. On the second data set, I got that. Yeah, I used exactly the same type of resolutions and, sorry, not resolutions, but cluster size, how big it's going to be, 10 clusters, again, the same kind of weighting. I got a reasonably similar result. Did on the third one as well, getting the idea that they're actually quite similar. So I can compare the 3 of them together. And I was amazed how well object-based image analysis picked out from the data 3 different data sets, or in fact 6 different data sets, because we've got bathymetry and backscatter. And they'll be processed probably quite considerably differently, whether they use the various processing systems that we've been talking about previously. So I have no idea how they're produced, but object-driven did seem to produce the same kind of result each time. So there's a difference between them, I will admit. But sort of, if you're looking at that to map the area, you'd be actually quite pleased that all 3 produce the same kind of result. So that's sort of object-based image analysis, producing something that I can semi-rely on and sort of put something together. Just another example of this is sort of using backscatter. Again, I did all the backscatter here. I did it 60 meters because my ground truthing that I'm going to do on this only went down to 60 meters. So I'm not trying to characterize anything of the deep stuff here. I then put some ground truth points on there. 277 little ROV dips for the video. So sort of doing a lot of dips. Sort of, but I did that in a week from a yacht. So it's sort of very pleasant work. Sort of bouncing up and down, stuff like that. And the reason why we're here, just very quickly, is a big volcano here. And the tourists want to go and visit this place. And they were trying to work out where they were going to moor their ships and put a wharf and stuff like that. I was going to say, well, let's have a look to see what the habitats are down there and see what's going on. So in the end, I produced effectively a habitat or a substrate map of the seabed here. And I did a completely new different kind of classification system between coral, rock, and sediment, just to try and sort of give it. So I gave it to the government of this island and sort of said, well, this is the kind of community of habitats that we've got down there to try and work out what was going on. And effectively, trying to say that maybe this area here would be the best area because this area had quite a coral in it. Didn't want to do that, the other was just rocky and that's exactly. First, sort of using object-based analysis to give the end user an idea of what's going on. They don't want to know about all the individual possibilities, but that was using a Backscatter. So that's one type of artificial intelligence. There are quite a few different ways of doing it. And so effectively, this was a paper by Marcus Teasing, who sort of tried various different methods for doing it. And he did it the manual way. He got an expert to sit down and draw all that. It took quite a long time, quite a long time. We're talking about weeks of work. OBIA ran probably in about 20 minutes, I guess. And these, various other random forest prediction methods and a geostatistical method looking at sort of the bottom points on from the ground truth as well. But very different ways of doing that. But start to think, okay, they're not quite the same, these 3 different methods here, to produce the same result as the manual method, assuming, of course, that the manual method is best. Can we put these 3 together? Can we do something like an ensemble method? So again, Marcus and myself and various other people in the room and online have produced various bits and pieces together to try to do a certain amount of ensemble mapping, i.e. using the different techniques that people use to produce a result. To produce a result that you can actually say, hey, look, this is what the sea data is made of. So we started to do this. We've used 5 different methods to try and interpret the seabed for a certain area. And we had ground truthing points. So here's all the ground truth points, this lower ternary diagram. And the one thing that I always find quite difficult is that the boundaries you've got on this classification system aren't very useful. Because effectively all our points are falling on this bottom right-hand corner of the triangle towards the sand area. And effectively it's not representative, well, it's not going to divide the area up nicely into areas that you can actually say, well, that's going to be this type of area. It was rather too predefined about what's like that. And on the backscatter, it wasn't absolutely easy to see what was going on about what was going to be separated, because effectively sand was very similar to the mud in the way the backscatter response. Not that we were only using backscatter, we were using the bathymetry and various other derivatives from the bathymetry as well, but effectively it's not quite so easy. If you put all of those together, we get this what we call ensemble map. And this was the inverted commas, the final result. And it's sort of not so wonderful, I don't think, because it's quite difficult to understand. And we had 5 ensembles, five methods that we had together, and effectively the dark green represents that they all match the same result with the same method. Going, well, okay. So we're averaging about 3, I think, for the whole area. That we're going to agree approximately what this actual substrate on C4 was. So we're sort of looking at on that kind of mapping. So it's a question of which method do you use? Do you use expert? Do you use artificial intelligence? Do you use lots of artificial intelligence type methods? I'm going, I'm not sure. So one of the reasons I'm here is to try and sort of get an idea of sort of what people are doing. Are some methods, first of all, better than other methods? And just trying to put it all together. So why are we using backscatter? And questions to be asked. You know, what does backscatter, what are we looking at? Is it going to give us something that we can actually use, or is it something to sort of point us in the direction? It's a proxy, as Xavier said earlier. And we'll get the calibration of it help. Will it give us something more that we have to do? If you're doing a single survey, maybe the calibration doesn't matter, because you've actually just, but maybe you do need the calibration to know rather than just using ground truth. So sort of various things like that. Multi-frequency. I'd love to have a go at multi-frequency, and I think that is a whole new doorway, a new room of questions. But and you know, I've got various other sort of questions to ask. So this may be more pertinent later on. I don't know. But should we use snippets, or should we use time series? Is there, you know, data quality? Is there a boundary between useful data and completely useless data? And sort of having looked at some mosaics, you're going, we can't do very much at all. And what level can artificial intelligence cope with? Will it get completely bound up? You know, we seem to be improving the way we are processing data, and maybe even my poor data we can do something with. The other thing is, we haven't talked about is navigation. We're now saying, oh, we're going to get down to high resolution and things like that. But is our navigation accuracy sufficient? Are we getting down to that? You know, we need to know where we are within 2 or 3 meters. If our mosaic resolution is down to 50 centimeters or less, 10 centimeters. So can we? And then sort of how when we process our data with the software, how are the manufacturers, how are they doing the stuff that they're doing? What's happening in Chimera and FFGT compared with Carry 66, Sonoris, or Sonos, or all the other different systems? And I'm just wondering whether there's a way of asking the question, what are you doing? Really, what are you doing? Is there something there that we ought to be saying to them, can you also make sure you do this? don't do it another way. So this is sort of my little sort of thing about the future of the Backscatter working group. I have a feeling that we are getting quite big, and I think we're getting unwieldy. And I'm wondering whether we need to actually have subgroups. And I have to go. My suggestion is, and this is an early suggestion, that we go into a quality, data quality and calibration to actually know what's we're producing. Sort of, and then maybe a multi-frequency and an acoustics group, sort of effectively how things actually happen with the frequency. I don't know the physics, I suppose, of what's going on. And then possibly the processing, interpretation, and use of how things work. Comparison of different AI techniques. Are some better than others? Mine very basic. Do we what we want to do? And we have a wonderful history of how the Backscatter working group has worked so far, which has been absolutely great. Which is to say, we've had more ideas coming in. We're not necessarily publication driven. If I don't produce publications, those people go, so we must do better than that. And it's what we want it to be is more people coming together to actually give ideas and sort of and people using the results. And then sort of we can break the complex parts. But I think if we've got everybody together, it gets so complex that we need to be able to concentrate on the different parts. And finally, we can refine ourselves through discussion and explanation of what's going on. And just for the software side, does software A use the insonification footprint size? Some of them don't. And just to say, what do some of these softwares do? So comparison between the different softwares. In some ways, you'd like them all to be able to do this. Yes, you might have, if you want to, you could switch something off. You didn't want the sort of footprint size for whatever reason. Do they do these things? It'll help them in a way. They'll know what they're doing and what they're not doing. Okay. In time, I won't carry on anymore. I'll just say that's why I think that is a possible future direction for this group. But I'm very happy to take discussion in the rest of 2 days. So thank you very much.
Okay, just keeping time. And questions and ideas there. Let's move on